Welcome to Concussion Talk Podcast. I'm Nick Mercer.
And I'm Erin Guilfoyle.
And before we get started today, I just want to thank my sponsor, HeadCheck Health. And then we'll talk to our guest, Michael Kaplen. Concussion Talk Podcast is presented by HeadCheck Health. HeadCheck Health bridges the gaps in concussion care through simple, powerful technology. Join organizations like the Canadian Football League, Track Factory Racing, the Canadian Junior Hockey League, Eastern Washington University, and Volleyball Canada, who rely on HeadCheck Health to improve communication and optimize care. Visit headcheckhealth.com for more. Hi, welcome to Concussion Talk Podcast. Michael Kaplen. That's right. Kaplen is the fish we have here, and I was got it confused like the first time ever, but just then I got confused. Anyway, thank you so much. Michael Kaplen is a lawyer in New York State and specializing in brain injury law. He's also the former president of the Brain Injury Association of New York State, the current chair of the Council. I've lost the thing. The Council of Traumatic Brain Injury, Council of New York State Coordinating Services. Sorry, but can you can correct me when I finish but Coordinating Council of New York State on Traumatic Brain Injury, and a lecturer at George Washington University Law School, and the only course in the U.S. and anywhere as far as I don't know much about the law courses offered in Canada or elsewhere, but only one in the U.S. that's in brain injury law. So that's just I mean, the introduction itself is just fascinating. But I'll ask Michael Kaplen, Michael Kaplen to introduce himself. So, please.
Well, thank you, Nick. You did a good job. Some of these are more of a mouthful than anything else. I am a lawyer in New York. I'm with the law firm of Caro and Kaplen. Our website is www.brainlaw.com, and I've been a lawyer practicing for 40 years here in New York, with a concentration on representing individuals who have sustained a traumatic brain injury or an acquired brain injury through either negligence or medical malpractice or a defective product of some kind. In addition to my practice of law, I also teach at the George Washington University Law School, where I teach, as you said, the only course in brain injury law in the country, teaching our students and young lawyers on how to properly and effectively represent individuals who have sustained a brain injury and advocate for them in many different forums, besides in the courtroom, with insurance companies, with health insurance providers, with Social Security, with veterans, with the Veterans Administration, and in the field of education, to make sure that youngsters who have sustained a traumatic brain injury or a concussion receive proper resources in school once they return to the classroom. In addition to that, I currently serve as the chair of the New York State Traumatic Brain Injury Services Coordinating Council.
Okay. Thanks.
That's a big one. So we don't even say that. We just call it TBI-SCC for short.
Okay, that's it. That's better.
And this council was created many years ago by the New York State Legislature to provide advice and guidance and recommendations to the New York State Department of Health and the Commissioner of Health in areas of traumatic brain injury. Besides that, I've also had the honor and privilege of being the president of the Brain Injury Association of New York State for 9 years. I'm no longer the president of that association, but it was a very proud time in my life, being able to advocate in many different ways for people who have sustained a brain injury. And I've also had the honor and privilege of chairing the American Association for Justice Traumatic Brain Injury litigation group.
Wow.
So that's a little bit of my background, but more important than that, it's my assisting brain injury survivors to get the justice that they deserve.
Well, great. That's amazing. That's a full resume, obviously. And Aaron will let Aaron ask the questions now because she's also local brain injury association. So Aaron, go for it.
Yeah. Hi, Michael. I work for the Newfoundland and Labrador Brain Injury Association here. So, a nice connection there. I was kind of just wondering what attracted you to this field of law and with the Brain Injury Association itself.
Well, that's a kind of long story, and it's kind of many twists and turns because I started college thinking I was going to be a physician until I didn't get very far in the field of chemistry.
Uh,
And
I heard that
I was,
story. You're
and
saying yesterday, like
I
one
was
class.
also interested in government and politics at that time in my life, and law became a very interesting vehicle to pursue that. Um, and while I was in law school, I had the privilege of working part time with a personal injury law firm who mentored me and in the field of personal injury law. And I found that to be a very um, satisfying area of the law because you're really working with the underdog to obtain justice and compensation for them when they become a victim. I don't like to use the word victim too often, but in this case, I will because they become a victim of someone else's careless conduct. Um, and they could have a brain injury or some other injury that develops. But it's because somebody wasn't careful. It's because somebody put profits over someone's safety. It's because um, a vehicle wasn't driven properly with proper care, or a truck wasn't operated properly or maintained properly, and the same for a building or a construction site, or even in a hospital or in a medical practice, care wasn't properly rendered to a patient, resulting in their injury. So one day, I was called upon to represent a fantastic gentleman who was in a horrific car crash in Brooklyn um, when his vehicle was struck by a truck. And as a result of this incident, he sustained some significant physical injuries, fractures, um, and these fractures all healed with very little problems as a result of that. But he was never the same again. He had memory problems, he had concentration problems, he had problems when he returned to work in terms of interaction with both his employer and co employees. Family members would report that he would be forgetful around the house and leave pots on the stove on and not turn off the gas, or he would just leave his home without taking a jacket in the wintertime. He'd go shopping and not return with the proper items. And his life was really turned upside down. But when you looked at him, he looked fine.
Mhm.
When you talked to him, he sounded fine. So to the outside world, everything seemed to be okay. But in fact, it was far from okay. And in addition to these problems that I've just talked about, of course, this gentleman was very frustrated
Mm.
because no one understood what his invisible injury was all about. And this fascinated me.
Mm.
And I began a journey to understand um, this silent injury, a brain injury, what it was all about, and how it can affect a person. And I found that it became a very satisfying area of the law to pursue, to represent individuals with this injury and get the justice that they deserve.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it really highlights just how invisible a lot of the symptoms of a brain injury can be. With that too, within the court system and the legal system, a lot of it's confusing for any of us who have full function of anything. Like I'm terrified of going into the legal system. How do you find that the navigation of it is with your clients? Like, could you walk through a little bit of that once you get a client who has had a brain injury?
Well, when you represent a person with a brain injury, there are some unique challenges that any attorney has to consider because the attorney, let's start with the fact that the attorney is more than the attorney just for that particular case because your client really doesn't have anyone else to turn to advise them, to listen to them, to provide direction to them. Unfortunately, in the world of brain injury, there are a lot of twists and turns in the road um, that nobody is willing to step up to the plate, so to speak, and deal with. Um, when they leave a facility where they receive some short-term acute care right after their injury, no one tells them what to expect next. No one gives them any direction where they can go for services or support. Nobody tells them that they're going to have problems with their insurance carrier to try to get reimbursement for proper care. Um, no one tells them that maybe they need to be seeing a neuropsychologist or a psychologist or a neuropsychiatrist or some other professional. Um, I've had individuals who I've represented who've told me about problems that they've had, and I said to them, well, you might want to see a neuro-optometrist and get special glasses, um, prism glasses to assist you. And I never heard about that. Nobody's ever discussed that with me. I said, yeah, that's the problem. It's not that people don't care, but they just don't know.
Yeah.
This is a really new area of medicine, as it is a new area of the law. And there's no one else that our clients can turn to for assistance. So you have to pick up a lot of the drop pieces along the way, in addition to doing what you were retained to do, which is represent that individual in a case. But it's also important to know that a brain injury individual has other issues that we'd have to contend with as attorneys. Their ability to comprehend information is such that they might be only able to take it in small bits and pieces. So it's not that they can't comprehend what I'm saying, that they're not ignorant or stupid or anything like that. It's just that their brain is going slower. And runs out of steam or energy, their battery fails a lot sooner. So I can't expect someone with a brain injury to sit across from me at my desk for 2 hours. It's just not something that's possible. So I have to understand that we need to have frequent breaks.
Yeah.
I have to understand that my client might need to just get up and stretch and walk and readjust themselves. I might have to understand that my client might even need to take a nap.
It's such as like you wouldn't ask a person with a broken leg to stand on it your whole meeting. Of course, you'd give them a chair. So
exactly. And I understand that with some of my clients, I have to turn the lights down because the bright light bothers them. So there are other things that one has to be concerned about with a person with a brain injury. And of course, I have to also understand that if they have memory problems, that's why they came to me. Well, they might not be able to remember everything that I told them. I can't get mad at them for that. It's not their fault. That's why they're in my office, because of that injury that they sustained. So, you can't lose your temper. You can't shout. It doesn't doesn't make their memory get any better if you shout at them. But you have to always understand that is your client, and that's why they're seeing you, and you have to treat that individual with trust and with respect.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately many times lacking in my profession. Because again, not because my profession contains bad people, but because my profession, just like the medical profession,
Change
has many
people.
individuals who don't understand what living with a brain injury is all about.
Mhm.
So, first, in order to properly represent a person with a brain injury, you have to understand what a brain injury is and how that affects every aspect of the individual's life.
Yeah, and that
That
seems to be kind of what your course is about too.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes. So I was gonna actually you have like you said you have to call it in like 5 minutes. So could you please just give us your course there, George Washington University, which is in Washington D.C. I believe you said.
Yes.
So how do you get there? Because you're in New York State now, so you get there. You teach it I guess once a week, but or so. But you explain just the course, what you teach in the course, and why it's important for young lawyers to know this.
So every week I take the Amtrak train down on Monday morning or Sunday night to Washington, and I teach my course. And Monday night I'll take the train back. And during the course of the week, if I need to have meetings or conversations with my students, we could do it by Skype or Zoom or something like that. But I'll spend my whole day in Washington on Mondays
Mm.
so I could have that time to interact during the course of the day with my students in addition to the classroom time. But the course starts by talking about what is the epidemiology of brain injury, um, where these brain injuries occur from falls, from automobile accidents, from domestic violence in the military, from blasts. We review the legislative history of what's taken place in the United States with the TBI Act, and what's that accomplished, and unfortunately, what still needs to be accomplished. So we talk about brain injury in the historical sense. We talk about why and when and how the Brain Injury Association of America was started. And then we go into a discussion in the following weeks about what is a concussion, what is a brain injury, and how the brain is injured. Because in the courtroom, we need to prove how that injury occurred. So we have to understand that from a medical aspect in order to be able to put witnesses on the witness stand to explain this to a jury.
Right.
And then we start from there talking about all the different other aspects of brain injury and the types of proof that we need in a courtroom, from problems with the fact that in many or most instances, the CAT scan or the MRI scan will be normal, and how we go about dealing with that. We talk about using new types of neuroradiological evidence, such as DTI testing and PET scans to prove that the person had a brain injury. We talk about the economic consequences of a brain injury and um, how that impedes an individual's ability to get a job or keep a job or get a new job. We talk about other vocational areas and life care plans and why they're important in a brain injury case. We talk about what happens with the defendants and their misuse of what they call malingering tests, um, to attack the credibility of our clients, and the importance of using what I call before and after witnesses, who really know our clients best, because I say the best proof of a brain injury is life.
Mhm.
So if we want to know how this injury has affected your life, we need to bring together people who knew before your injury and explain to the jury what they have observed in terms of the differences in all aspects of your life, because that's very important to understand. And we talk about sports injuries and concussion management in sports. And we talk of the NFL case and the
Great.
problems with that settlement and what's that generated. So for 13 weeks, we really go in depth into all areas of traumatic brain injury. Um, uh, we talk about Medicare and Medicaid and insurance issues. and we really try to bring it all together. So when a student leaves my course, um, they're very qualified in terms of representing an individual who had a brain injury.
That's
Wow.
good. Oh, sorry, Aaron. I should say because now it looks like it's about time for you. You have to now you have another call you have to get to, but this is just a. I mean, you know so much about brain injury and obviously the law, obviously. So just hoping I'd love to chat with you sometime. And yes, and but for right now, our time is over now with Michael Kaplen. I said it again. Jeez, I mean, I'll let you go pronouncing it correctly. And
No, that's okay, Nick. It's Kaplan, and the name
Kaplan,
of the firm is the
the
Caro and
Caro,
Kaplan,
the Caro
and
Kaplan.
the website is brainlaw.com.
And where else?
Amazing.
And where else people can reach you? Facebook or Instagram
I
or
think the website is the best way to reach me. And every week right now we're putting out another video called The Brain Injury Insider, discussing another aspect of brain injury. And if you go to our website, you could subscribe to this as well. And we have other unique offerings to your listeners that they could get on our website
great.
that are all complimentary.
I'll definitely go check it out now. So thank you so much, and good luck with your course and with your any other this next call you have to get on. So good luck with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Erin and Nick, thank you. And I look forward to coming back on your podcast again in the future.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thanks. The music at the beginning of this podcast is by Ben Sound. www.bensound.com.